She is the prosecution witness who almost got as much attention, both good and bad, as George Zimmerman himself. Talking about Rachel Jeantel, from her casual use of the phrase creepy-ass cracker to her visible frustration with defense attorney Don West in the courtroom. She was definitely not a wallflower witness.
I had told you. You listening?
Yes, ma'am.
I had told you what happened to me in Crump interview. I had rush on it. Are you listening?
Maybe we can break until the morning if that would be.
No. I'm leaving down today.
What's that?
I'm leaving today. Nope.
Are you refusing to come back tomorrow?
To you?
So that was Rachel Jeantel in the courtroom a couple weeks ago. But last night, in an interview with Piers Morgan, some say we saw a different side of Jeantel, more animated, more relaxed, but just as controversial.
Don West gave you a very hard time, the defense attorney.
Don West.
What is your view of him?
All that I have to say, he lucky I'm a Christian. Weed, you say marijuana, but in my area, we say weed. My area, weed, for Trayvon, I can explain one thing. We don't make him go crazy. It just make him go hungry. Look at the picture. There is blonde females. Mind you, where we live, where everybody live, blondes are dumb. They say dumb things, so that's some dumb blondes. And I really don't care. To me, I won.
Joining me now, Robert Franklin, former president of Morehouse College, Emily Miller, senior opinion writer at the Washington Times, and Lauren Ashburn, Daily Download founder, Daily Beast contributor. Welcome to all of you. Before we all chat, we saw a glimpse of this, but one of the things a lot of people were talking about today was Rachel Jeantel's use, casual use, if I may, of racial language. Here she was.
Nigga.
Why?
People, the whole world say it's a racist word. Mind you, around 2000s, that was not, they changed it around, I think. It starts spelling N-I-G-G-A. Nigga.
What does that mean to you, that way of spelling it? What does that word mean to you?
That means a male.
A black male?
No, any kind of male.
Black or white?
Black, any kind. Chinese can say nigga. That's my chino, nigga. They could say that.
And rappers and everything use it in the music, and that's what they mean?
Yes. But nigger or nigger, I advise you not to be by black people, because they're not going to have it like that.
Right.
Because that's a racist word.
But they're two different words, and they have different meanings in your community.
No, in a generation, 2000...
To young people, you mean?
Not young people. Old people use that too.
I just want to have a discussion. Let's begin with this language. And Dr. Franklin, I want to begin with you just because you've been the president of a college for a number of years. You've worked with a lot of young people. Her casual use of the racial slurs. What does society make of this? What do you make of this?
Well, I find it interesting that this young woman, who in many ways is very naive, but also at times sophisticated as she tries to explain the use of language in her cohort.
She's earnestly trying to explain.
Indeed. And I think she's reaching out so that others will understand what she means as she employs this language. Ultimately, I think this really signals the need for all of us to have a different kind of conversation. And we need a national dialogue about race and about culture, because we're rapidly approaching the time when there will be no majority in America. And all of these young people will be the citizens leading our communities forward.
We are trying. Hopefully this is the beginning of something larger. Lauren Ashburn, you hear Rachel Jeantel, and a lot of people are saying, look, this is a generational thing, this language. She says no. She says young folks, older folks use, the N-word. The fact that the N-word ending in an A to her is a word that describes a male of any race. Should society just accept that?
I think what she is trying to do, and is really explain, as you said, what is happening on her level. However, that word has such negative connotations and white people and people of other races have been vilified for using it. And so it gets confusing when someone is allowed to say it and then someone else isn't allowed to say it. And I think that you're right, the dialogue in America has to happen. If you Google race in America, you get hundreds and hundreds of articles, symposiums from the University of Pittsburgh to the Aspen Institute, all of which are trying to make this issue go away.
In terms of race, I know, Emily, you disagree with Rachel Jeantel. Rachel Jeantel says, you know, race was, of course, a factor in this case. Listen to this.
It was racial. Let's be honest. Racial. If Trayvon was white and he had a hoodie on, would that happen? Because that was around 7 o'clock or something. That's around that people walk their dogs, people stay outside. All that.
The juror tonight made it clear that the jury never really discussed race as being a motivating factor here.
Remind you, they're white. Well, one Hispanic.
Well, was that a common belief on the jury that race did not play a role in this?
I think all of us thought race did not play a role.
So nobody felt race played a role?
I don't think so.
None of the jurors?
I can't speak for them. I'm not
that
their
wasn't
voice.
part of the discussion in the jury room?
No, we never had that discussion.
It didn't come up, the question of, did George Zimmerman profile Trayvon Martin because he was African American?
No, I think he just profiled him because he was the neighborhood watch, and he profiled anybody that came in acting strange. I think it was just circumstances happened that he saw Trayvon at the exact time that he thought he was suspicious.
So, Emily, you and many, many other Americans agree with what we just heard from Juror B37. This was a case of simple self-defense, and you say, and many others say, this should have never even gone to trial, correct?
Yeah. That's right. I mean, let's just look at the facts of the case. The lead detective on the case and the police, when the FBI did an investigation last year, whether this was related to race, the lead detective said it had nothing to do with race. When Zimmerman called 911, he didn't report this being a black person. He said he's someone wearing a hoodie, and the emergency caller said, "Can you tell race?" And he said, "I think black." I mean, there's absolutely nothing to do with this. This is being fanned by people like Jesse Jackson or Charlie Rangel, or at times Barack Obama, by saying, you know, Trayvon Martin looked like the son I never had. And now the Justice Department under Attorney General Holder saying we're going to look into this. It's being fanned, but the facts of the case is the jury decided them as the prosecution pursued this case. No one has ever said race came into it, and just look at the facts.
But then what is it about this case when you look at the folks on the street, and listen, we had this conversation, a lot of people on both sides, I think, just saw the headlines initially, had a preconceived notion going into it, didn't even get into the weeds and follow this trial, and came out believing what they believed initially. Are you following me? I mean, I feel like there is clearly, and it's not always simmering, but there is such anger and rage and frustration in this country, and if you look at any of either Trayvon Martin or George Zimmerman, they represent so much more than just two individuals.
But Brooke, let's talk about profiling for a minute. You have 6 people who are white on this jury, and people are saying if there had been African Americans on this jury, that the result would have been different.
Right.
Isn't
but
that
would the result have been different?
Isn't that profiling?
Wait. But would the result have been, first of all, that's complete hypothetical. The jury has spoken. Even Barack Obama has said, the President of the United States says the jury has spoken. So let's not question that hypothetical. However, are you saying that by putting a black person on the jury, we would found him guilty even though he was not? I mean, do we really want to screw around the justice?
Let me stop both of you ladies, with all due respect. Let me stop both of you right there, because there are lots of hypotheticals we could throw around, and they have been thrown around. But I am glad you brought up the president, because this is something, actually, Dr. Franklin and I were tweeting about this last night. Many people have also written about this, because the president stepped into this a little bit last year when he talked about, you know, had one of his sons would look like Trayvon Martin. Should the president lead a conversation, a national conversation that we're talking about when it comes to race? We're going to talk about that next.
Did you find it hard at times to understand what she was saying?
A lot of the times. Because a lot of the times she was using phrases I have never heard before and what they meant.
When she used the phrase creepy-ass cracker, what did you think of that?
I thought it was probably the truth. I think Trayvon probably said that.
And did you see that as a negative statement or a racial statement, as the defense suggested?
I don't think it's really racial. I think it's just everyday life. The type of life that they live and how they're living in the environment that they're living in.
That was the voice of Juror B37 speaking in shadow with Anderson Cooper, talking about what she thought of the prosecution witness here, Rachel Jeantel. Back with me, Robert Franklin, former president at Morehouse College, Emily Miller, senior opinion writer for the Washington Times, and Lauren Ashburn, Daily Download founder and Daily Beast contributor. So the issue of race in the Zimmerman trial clearly struck a chord with a lot of people in this country. So I want to talk about where we go from here. So let me play this soundbite. This is from President Obama last year.
If I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon. And, you know, I think they are right to expect that all of us as Americans are going to take this with the seriousness it deserves, and that we're going to get to the bottom of exactly what happened.
Dr. Franklin, I defer to you first. You came on the show yesterday. We continued the dialogue through the rest of the evening. When it comes to one idea that could take us forward, you suggested possibly President Obama could lead a conversation on race. How could that happen?
I think President Obama should seize this moment to begin a conversation about race. The Attorney General has already told the NAACP and the Deltas in Washington, D.C. that we need a national conversation on race. And I think who better to lead the conversation? Go back and listen to the March 2008 speech that President Obama, then Senator Obama, delivered, titled A More Perfect Union. And he talks about the generosity and decency of Americans. He holds together his white grandmother and Reverend Jeremiah Wright. He's engaged in some very important work that as a nation we need to do as we move to reconciliation.
How does he do that as the first African-American president, you know, not take a side, but almost rise above?
He can rise above. President Clinton did it with the Race Initiative, appointing credible people to lead that forward. Dr. John Hope Franklin did it before, Dean Chris Edley, all sorts of great people who could do that today for him. In addition, I just returned from South Africa, where I paid homage to President Nelson Mandela, standing outside that hospital. Look at what that one president did for South Africa. He created a Truth and Reconciliation Commission and led a national conversation. And I have to tell you, Brooke, there were white former security guards who protected Mandela, who were out in the street alongside young black people and others, grieving and hoping for Mandela's restoration. So President Obama can do this. He's very skillful, very smart, and has a personal biography that the nation needs now.
As I listen to you, Emily Miller, I'm just curious to your thoughts, because I'm reminded, I was finding myself reading last time about that beer summit, remember, in 2009, and the uproar over the racial profiling and Henry Louis Gates and that Cambridge police officer, and, you know.
And he was wrong. Obama jumped into that case, threw down the race card, and once again he was wrong. This is the second time he has done it. I don't even know why we're talking about Nelson Mandela and apartheid. This is the United States of America. We do not have apartheid. We do not need reconciliation. We have not had any kind of laws like this. I mean, this is the president fanning these frames. Young people have every opportunity.
Killed because of the lack of ability to empathize with young black male lives. That is totally
irresponsible of you to say. Trayvon Martin was killed because Zimmerman, he turned around and started beating the crap out of Zimmerman and tried to kill him.
Why did he turn around? Because he was being pursued by
he was
dangerously unprepared,
and he was not
well-intentioned young man.
I think we're supposed to be having a conversation about race. Aren't we supposed to be having a conversation about race and not fighting about what happened in the past? Well, if Brooke, the conversation is supposed to be about race, then we need to have it in a civil way, Emily. Yeah. We can't be yelling at people. That's what gets us in trouble in the first place.
My point is that there shouldn't, I don't know why why the media, why the NAACP is making this case about race.
It's not the media. You look at the folks across the country who are forgive me. It's my show. Hang tight there. There are people across the country who are clearly angry on both sides of the issue. I think there clearly is a need for some kind of reconciliation. We need to move forward. My question, and I wish I had the answer, is the how. One idea would be the president, but to your point, Emily, you know, it wasn't as successful from a lot of perspectives, that beer summit in 2009. So, you know, Donna Brazil actually just tweeted me, political strategist, CNN. She says, should the president focus on a conversation on race? No, focus on jobs and opportunity for all. So if it's not the president, if it's not the president, then who
he has done this.
I love Donna, but I disagree. I think that the president can start a conversation.
He has already done this. He has done it by being the first African-American president. He has other things he needs to do. And I think what needs to happen is that people like me, like Emily, like others in the media, and others who are grassroots politicians need to start it from the bottom. These are conversations. In this book, Barack Obama says one conversation can change a life. And it's people who are out there who are preaching for people to be sympathetic and for people to be understanding of other people.
Emily Miller, I want to give you the last word.
I just want to go back to the point that the prosecution, the jury, and the FBI have all said that race played no role in the facts of this case. So anything that comes out of this that is race-related is not coming from the jury, the prosecution, the FBI, or the police.
Okay. We've got some work to do. Robert Franklin, Emily Miller, and Lauren Ashburn, thank you all for the candid conversation. I love it. I invite it. Let's do it again.